Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Monday, September 20th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered in my 47 years of doing therapy. And these tools are available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the Start Here link in the upper left-hand corner of the page, it'll take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of that book contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. It's called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. It's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 17 years to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and a tool I can use to turn any negative emotional experience into part of the infallible guidance system that each of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click it, download it, print it off, and use it as often as you'd like. You can also go to the App Store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness and get access to a completely free and private app that contains this Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. You can also download a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one that have been curated out of the past 10 and a half years of Mind Shifter radio shows, internet podcasts, whatever you want to call them. And they include actual examples of people being stepped through the worksheet process, testimonials about how the application of the worksheet process has improved people's lives, and discussion about how a tool that is so seemingly simple and direct can be so effective. We are also doing the Course in Miracles is built for the purpose of separating parts of himself, his total self, higher self, capital S self, from other parts. It is within this fence that we think that we live. To die as it decay and crumbles. Within this fence, we think that we are safe from love. Identifying with this safety, we regard ourselves as what safety is. How else could we be certain that we remain within the body, keeping love outside? So the idea in this commentary is that we created this body and the sense of separation that it provides as a defense against something. But the only thing there is the love of the creation and the creative energy itself. And so what's a better use of the body? The body could be a means by which we return to sanity. Though it was made to fence us off from hell without escape, yet has the goal of heaven been exchanged for the pursuit of hell. Thus, the offspring of creation extends his hand to each brother to help him walk along the road. And now the body is holy. Now it serves to heal the mind that it was made to kill. So, we want to understand that the body is not what it seems, and every time we use it in a way that seems to separate us from others, that's a misuse of our ability to perceive. Lesson 236, we'll get to in a minute. Lesson 261, God is my refuge and security. I will identify with what I think is refuge and security. I will behold myself where I perceive my strength. And let me not seek for idols. Right? I choose to be as you created me, Creator, and I find my true self as you created it. Lesson 262 reads, let me perceive no differences today. We are all one. There is no separation. Who we are, one would recognize this day. We are who would recognize this day the truth about ourselves. We would come home and rest in unity, for there is peace, and nowhere else can peace be sought and found. Today's lesson reads, my holy vision sees all things as pure. Father, your mind created all that is. Your spirit entered into it. Your love gave life to it. And would I look upon what you created as if it could be made sinful? Well, let's just say it positively. I will not look upon this way. What you made cannot be in error. I would not perceive such dark and fearful images. A madman's dream is hardly fit to be my choice, instead of all the loveliness with which you blessed creation, all its purity, its joy, its eternal quiet home in you, Creator. And while we still remain outside the gate of heaven, let us look on all we see through holy vision and the eyes of the Christ. Let all appearances seem pure to us, that we may pass them in innocence and walk together to our Father's house as brothers and the holy offspring of the Creator. So, Lesson 263 in the Course in Miracles experiment by Pam Grout reads, look beyond the madman's dream. She quotes Twyla Tharp as saying, sometimes I use X-ray vision to look into the dancer and see who this dancer is right now at this exact moment in time. Pam writes, like Superman, I was raised in Kansas and have a thing for wearing tights. Unlike my fellow Kansan, I rarely leap tall buildings or fly. I also don't have X-ray vision. But I do have what A Course in Miracles Lesson 263 calls holy vision. It allows me to see beyond appearances. It allows me to see beyond lack and limitation. It allows me to see the reality that is covered up with my distorted thinking. My brother, J.C., was so good at using holy vision that people who hadn't walked in years literally got up and busted a jaunty nene. I, too, possess this superpower. It's like a magic wand. And when I commit to use it, reality changes right before my eyes. The ugly morphs into the beautiful, the dark into light, the sadness into joy. Today, I use my superpower to see all things as perfect, pure, and pristine. I use it to bless everyone I see, to bless everything that crosses my path. And as I look beyond seeming appearances to the incomparable truth beneath the veil, I call forth life and restore all things to their original state of perfection. So that's our Course in Miracles lesson and the commentary from Pam Grout's Course in Miracles experiment. And as usual, we've got about 50 minutes left to talk about whatever might be of service to you. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, we can have a conversation. We welcome your comments, your questions, your answers, your suggestions for topics, your suggestions for people that we might interview, either for the Mind Shifters Radio or the On Your Mind podcast, hosted by Journey's Dream, which is available at journeysdream.org. And I will mention again that coming up October 8th, 9th, and 10th,
our goal is in the situation and then canceling that goal. That's to get to that part of your mind that is creating the emotional upset. And in this case, this came to me, I wasn't even doing a worksheet, like I said, I was just doing a Course in Miracles lesson, and I made that connection. And because, it was a great blessing that I was taken, into that.
Digestive system, look at the people in our culture with digestive problems. Digestive system doesn't have to work if the only thing you're caring about, the only thing your physiology is concerned about is short-term survival. Hey, shut off that digestion. You got, everybody produces cancer cells every day. Your body's producing cancer cells because of the toxicity and the fear and the rage that's in it. You don't need to fight those cancer cells. Don't need to put any energy in that. If imminent death is what the cell is getting as a message, that what it needs to do is survive. And, when you recognize that what we have in this so-called human body is a collection of trillions of individuals called cells that take their, each cell doesn't have a set of so-called eyes that can feed it information about the world. So there's a central supply house that gives every cell its messages, and if that supply house...
Creative person attending our Tuesday support group, Mind Shifter support group, years ago, and she said, and I'll paraphrase her because I don't have the writing in front of me, but she did a piece of writing about how a lot of different times in her life she has run across a teacher who found a piece of the truth. And over time, that teacher came to believe that they found the truth. And eventually, they came to believe they found the only truth. And then eventually, they came to believe they were the truth. And that was the end of the therapeutic relationship. That, when we get full of ourselves, that's when we've lost sight of the truth. When we think we are the truth, or that truth is something that we own or we possess or we have cornered the market on, that's when truth is lost. Somewhere in the archives, there's a show I did where I was trying to talk about, and I think I read quite a bit of, or at least segments of, the talk that Krishnamurti gave when he disbanded the Order of the Star. And the title of the talk was, Truth is a Pathless Land. There is no path to walk in the truth. Can't be known, held, written down, possessed. And the story with Krishnamurti was that he had been discovered, shall we say, by some people from the Theosophical Society, and they were grooming him to be the head of a new religion. And they were hopeful that he was going to make an announcement. Finally, I think he was in his early 30s. And they'd been grooming him since his teen years. And they'd formed a society of the Order of the Star, and a society of people that felt they were special and they were close, and they all meditated together, and they all got messages from the Great White Brotherhood and lots and lots of fancy stuff. And he got to the point where he agreed to do another special talk, and everybody thought, this is it. He's going to come out and tell us that he is the reincarnation of Jesus. And he came out and he said, to begin this talk, I'd like to tell you a story about the devil. The devil and his friend were walking down the street, and they saw someone in front of them bend over and pick something up off the sidewalk. The friend said to the devil, "What did that person just pick up?" The devil said, "Oh, they just picked up a piece of it to do what I do when I'm doing the Mind Shifters radio show, is try the tools that Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce make available." Why? Well, because they're free, and there are no negative side effects. It's not like you're ingesting a poison hoping to get sick or hoping to get healthy. And it's free, and it's something you can apply in your own life soon and often or as needed. And if it works, keep doing it. And if it doesn't work, let it go. Go find another one. Go try Byron Katie's work, or Ho'oponopono, or the Sedona Release Method, or Diedrich Wolsack's 6 Steps to Forgiveness, or G.P. Walsh's Inner Reconciliation. Because the more I look into these various tools, the more my eye and ear tells me they're all basically doing the same thing. The more we get out of the conscious logical mind that is trying to tell us that we're right and other people are wrong, or vice versa, we're horrible and other people are so much better, the more we get out of that mind and the more we ask to be shown, we ask our bodies how they're feeling, we ask ourselves to notice what we notice. The more we do that, the more transformation takes place, the more integration, the more healing takes place. And the more we try to live with the cultural bias that other people and things, situations outside of us are causing our upset, and we need to find a way to get them to change, that's the more we do that, the more stuck we get. And the more we move into just observation, active in the moment, questioning and observation, the better our lives get. This happens with Byron Katie's work, where she just has you question any negative belief. Because in her awakening, she realized that she only suffers when she believes her negative thoughts. Well, if you look at the reality management worksheet, it basically does the same thing. It asks you to be clear about what your mind is telling you and how it's blaming other people and situations for its upset, and then cancel all of that and ask to be shown something else. Just watch what happens when you get out of the doing mind and into the observer position that's available to all of us. And what happens is, often nothing short of seemingly miraculous. There's a technique called brain spotting, which basically does the same thing. It uses a very simple technique to notice
developed a real judgment against closed doors. So, and then also too, just all the closed doors. There was always slamming doors in the house. People were so angry in my house. Doors were always slamming. Doors were always closed. No one.
I just turned the page from where I completed that reading. I'm going to add one more key thought that we have here. It comes from Albert Schweitzer. He says, the one thing I know, the only ones among you who will be really happy are those who have thought and found how to serve. Thank you, Albert. That's a pretty powerful thought. So how can we serve you? What's on your mind? 563-999-3581 if you're on one of those stations where we can't see you. And if you call that number, you'll be listening to the show. When you push 1, a little hand will go up in the control panel. Jeannie will introduce you by your area code, and we'll be having a conversation. Let's have a conversation. How can we support you? What's on your mind? Now, I can't imagine after what I've just said that there aren't at least a dozen questions, 100 questions.
As in most of these techniques, tools, when they start talking about it, they talk about how people are just blown away and wonder, how could this happen? How could I feel so different after basically not doing anything, doing basically nothing? And the answer is because it's not possible to end my emotional and psychological pain by engaging the very process that created my emotional and psychological pain. That's what David Bohm would call sustained incoherence. Creating a problem with the process of the mind and then trying to fix the problem by continuing to engage that same process of the mind. I had a session over the weekend with somebody that I hope to interview on Wednesday. And again, the entire session was about just observing. And when you see this and when you feel this and you say that, what do you notice? Now come back to this and notice this. Now come back to the original and notice that. What do you notice? It's this, the art of observation and its ability to be transformative is at the core of most every technique I've ever encountered that actually helps people initiate deep, lasting change, profound and lasting change. And I can't get there by thinking my way through it, which is why the somatic therapies are so useful. It is why the worksheet process is so useful. It's why the EFT tapping is so useful, because I'm not trying to change my emotions with EFT tapping. I'm just noticing them and keeping my breath moving and allowing the energies and the insights, if there are any, to come bubbling to the surface. So if you've been involved in any kind of a therapy before and you didn't get very good results, chances are it's because the process was more lopsided than balanced. And by lopsided, I mean focused more on the conscious logical rather than integrating the body sensations, the emotions, and the intellectual processing. So don't give up exploring. One of the ways you might want to explore is to attend the Integrative Mental Health Summit. You can find out more about that at that very website, integrativementalhealthsummit.org. And they ask that you pay them $25 to get the live access. And I've said several times on the show already, if you're interested or you know somebody else who's interested and would like to attend, but they don't have the $25, have them email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, and I'll make sure they get free access to that Integrative Mental Health Summit, the 3 days of talks and panel discussions and breakout sessions, whatever it is. And it's all about trying to get the knowledge of good, effective tools into the hands of the people who need them. And that's what everybody who's involved in putting this summit on is trying to do, whether they're from Mensa Medical or the Journey's Dream non-for-profit. And your help in spreading the word about that is greatly appreciated. And again, if you have any questions or comments, you can send them to me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org. And feel free to join us October 8th through 10th for the virtual summit. From the comfort of your home or car or wherever you have your tablet or laptop or phone, these days it gets easier and easier. Some people say, "Oh, I miss not being able to go to the live seminar." But then again, one of the benefits is a lot more people can attend because it's through this internet platform, because it's virtual rather than literally being there face to face. And in these days of people having concerns about health and lots of people packed in public places, it gets rid of that potential excuse. So what's your comment or question? How can we support you? What's the topic that you'd like to have us explore for the last half hour of this show? Before we start Michael and Jeannie's second hour, 2 hours, 5 days a week in our current format. And again, our intention is to be of service. So how can we be of service? What is top of mind for you that we could talk about today? I have an interview coming up with Dr. Richard Moss, and he, as we've talked about, has written a couple of books that really focus on a whole new level of awareness and observation. I've lost track of when I'm interviewing. Oh, there it is, on October 6th. But as I'm reading his books, the Mandala of Being, I believe, is one, and Inside Out Healing is another. He's, again, one more person in the list of other people I just talked about who's advocating for just watching, having your intention focused on yourself and being attentive to exactly what's going on in your system. Watching your thought without having to be moved by your thought. And every time I read another person who talks about how to harness the power of presence, they say things like, the worst suffering often comes not from the situation, not from what we experience, but from what we tell ourselves about it. Well, in the bottom line observations, one of my observations is what happens to me and around me in my life is nowhere near as important as how I choose to interpret and respond to those events. So, watching what we do to ourselves with our thought process, waking up to how our focus of our attention and the thoughts that we pour our mind energy into is the thing that creates our emotional experience and our experience of life in each moment. When we wake up to that and we learn, it's amazing we weren't taught this earlier, when we learn how to just observe and we learn a series of steps we might take, whether it's beginning with being focused on the breath or beginning with being focused on awareness of things we can see and feel and hear. As we practice learning these things, amazing benefits can accrue. That's why we say to people, please use the worksheet process. Right? Get the practice in. Pieces from his book that I highlighted was that the key is learning to be aware with our feelings and with another person, to feel your sensations and stop thinking about them. Put it another way, I don't give the sensations to my ego. Instead, I learn to just bring awareness to the sensations if I've got an ache or a pain. It's a simple way to talk about Dr. John Sarno, who used to do back surgery and gave it up because he found out that the vast majority of back pain and other body aches and pains was the result of tension myoneural syndrome, which means the mental emotional tensions that I haven't worked through get stored in my body, and when they get activated, they create. Learn about how your mind and your body are not separate. Learn how your mental emotional tensions are stored in the body, and that's causing this pain. Well, here it is. Said in another way, we don't give the sensations of pain to our ego. Instead, we learn to bring awareness to them. And he would have people talk to their back pain when their back would spasm, or they'd get a stab of pain. Talk to their neck. Talk to the part of the body that's producing a physical ache or pain or a negative symptom, and listen, in quotes, listen not with the ears, but listen with your mind and your heart. And the vast majority of people that he did this work with, this educational session with, began having a reduction in pain and restoration of motion. And the few people where he would find that they weren't getting any better, he would refer them to a psychologist or a therapist who was trained in the deep unconscious work around trauma, and then they would get better. Because, we know that when people have trauma that locks energies in the system, the stuck energy, the trapped energy, can block our awareness of the memory. And then if I can't get the memory, I can't feel the feelings, I can't release it, I can't get the message it has for me, then it stays trapped in my system. There's one such example of a woman she hit her 40s and started to develop tremendous pain in her legs, and they couldn't find any physical reason for her to be in that much pain. So they assumed, well, she's probably got the autoimmune disease, she's probably got lupus, or she's got fibromyalgia, or she's got chronic fatigue, and they just kept going around and around in circles, but nothing that they had to offer her would give her any benefit. And they just kept saying, you've got to take these medications, and the medications weren't yielding any significant reduction in pain, but they were giving her, a clouded view of the world. Her mind was feeling, foggy, and her head felt all stuffy. And so she quit, and she ended up in the therapist's office who could take a holistic or integrative approach and said, well, while we're doing, letting the doctors look at all of the scans and body scans and everything, let's talk about what your life is like and what your stresses are and where your trigger points are and what your childhood was like if there were traumas, etc. And with the therapy technique that was based in observation and body work and, watching the eye movements, etc., what was discovered was that she had a very troubled childhood. And in the first few early years, she bonded well with her father, but not her mother. And mother was quite resentful and would be abusive to her whenever father wasn't there. And then as things escalated in the mess between the parents, I think it was like age 5, it was like an automatic switch got thrown and her father turned on her. Well, so when she was doing the deep therapy work that used body realization and eye movements, etc., she tapped into how her father, when he would be drunken and angry beginning at age 5, he would whip her with the belt, and the belt buckle would hit the back of her thighs. And so that's a lot like the pain she was going through. And with that realization and the accessing of that trauma and the release of those energies, the physical pain in the legs dissipated over time, the way no amount of medications had been able to make a change. So I'll take a break from my little storytelling and welcome area code 828. Is this Magda?
Hi, yes, Dr. Tim, it is. And I was just wondering if you have ever done an interview with Dr. Gabor Mate.
No, I have not. Yeah.
Okay, you have.
Dr. Gabor, Dr. Gabor Mate or Mate, however you want to say it. I never know how to say it.
I agree.
I've watched interviews with him. I watched the recent video they did on trauma, and they publicized. I've read the book In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, which is a classic that he's written about dealing with trauma and addictions. And I don't think I would have success in getting him to our little podcast, but it would be a thrill. It would be a thrill, but
it would be.
Is there a specific point that you wanted to bring up about his work or his theories about dealing with trauma?
Oh, my. Well, few things I remember, and I want to actually go back. I've just discovered him this last week, and I've listened to and watched some of his interviews. And one of the things I like very much is how he explains the trigger. And it was, I've known about the trigger forever, and yet he really talked about it in a way that gave me a slightly different understanding. So that was cool. Another thing that I like is how he goes, he believes that almost every illness that we have comes from early childhood traumas. And he goes into explaining that traumas might not have seemed like traumas to anybody else, but how that can be a trauma to the child and be carried forward. So I thought the way he went into depth with that was really important to me. And just the fact all about addiction. I went, oh my God, I'm addicted to more than I thought I was. But he makes that very clear case as well about addiction. So I was wondering if perhaps you could try to get him, and also hoping that would be so. I know that he's a pretty busy guy, I guess.
Well, and he's well sought after by lots and lots of people, and
Sure.
Peter Levine and the people that do the brain spotting, and he's a high level, well sought after.
Yeah.
I think he's currently retired from doing the medical work that he did for so long in his kind of a push to help, but he was driven to this compulsive life where he was seen as the physician and the expert and paid some good money, but he was basically using it to stay away from his family of origin, and his wife and kids, and so he knows a lot about the process because he would help his patients with it, but he would also see it in himself. And
right.
you can I can recommend the book In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, as it's a kind of a long book, but there's a lot of good stuff in there, and he is honest about his own story. There are some wonderful interviews we've shared with the Tuesday and Thursday support groups where he's been, he's done interviews with Adyashanti and some other big names where they share the spiritual and the practical approach to healing and to unraveling the roots of our obsessive compulsive and addictive problems.
Right. Well, I'm glad to check out that book. I was wondering which of his books would be the best to start with, and that one did seem to appeal to me. So it's nice to have your recommendation on that. Okay, well, I just thought I would check with you, see if it's worth making the overture to him.
Well, there's there are some relatively, he's not relatively big, he's just big, and he's been on the circuit for a long time, and he's got the ear of people like Oprah and the other, Peter Levine and Bessel van der Kolk and all these people that are at the top of the game in terms of being national and international experts and sought-after speakers for conferences and keynotes and things like that. Gabor's right up there.
Okay, well, see, I didn't know that, having just discovered him a week ago. I don't know how that happened, but it's okay. Coming at the right time. Everything's in perfect timing. So, okay, well, good. I will.
Well, I appreciate the recommendation, and I can return the recommendation to say there are lots of good YouTube videos out there of his that are free. There is a recently, I forget the specific name of it, but there was a movie they promoted through the something non-dualism, spirituality and non-dualism, SAND, and they had this trauma movie that they produced, and he was one of the primary people in it.
Okay, well, good. I will check out some more YouTube. And
I think it's called The Wisdom of Trauma. Science and Non-Duality is the scienceandnonduality.com, and the movie is The Wisdom of Trauma, and the primary speaker in it off and on is Gabor. Cool.
So one more time, how do you suspect his last name would be?
Mate or Mate? I don't think it matters. It's a French thing, and we're not going to say it right.
I thought he was Yugoslavian.
Pardon me?
I thought he was from Yugoslavia.
Yeah, he probably is. But when you start making the umlauts over the ends of the letters in the foreign language stuff, us Westerners just go, it's all French to me.
I got it. That's a very pretty name. Okay. Well, carry on. I shall continue listening. And say blessings, Dr. Kim.
All right. Blessings to you. Thank you for the call.
Thank you.
I have the list of interviewees includes Mira Rubin coming up on Wednesday, Dr. Lewis for some, I think he's a sound therapy expert, sound and brainwaves. Brad Yates for EFT tapping is coming up next week. Dr. Nelson, who wrote the book Emotion Codes, is also next week. So if you have, people you'd like to have us reach out to interview or explore their work or read the book and review it, give us a call, 563-99 to do as kids. How do you stay awake and aware in present moment, mind, body, spirit? How do you bring the power of that present moment awareness into your life more often? And that's what his 2 books are about, Inside Out Healing and Mandala of Being. So, and I'm trying to think about where we were right before Magda called, and we were talking about so many of these various approaches that I get the most benefit of when I look at how similar they are. What is similar from one to the other? What's similar from coherence therapy and between coherence therapy and the reality management worksheet? The essence of it for similarity is all we're doing is observing. We're not getting in there to change anything. We're looking at what it is we're already doing that's creating what we're experiencing. And once we see it clearly, then we don't need to do anything other than observe it and be with it. And then the innate wisdom, the internal healer, does the work. In each and every worksheet process, I first 3 steps, I map out what my mind is doing with the thought energy focused on a certain pattern of thought that's generating a certain emotion, and how my mind is trying to convince me that that's all happening because of some outside force. And as I map that out, because the essence of the contentment or the joy or the happiness that everyone says they want is their birthright, and it's already there. It's just not something they can see right now because there's too much false belief and rigid thinking in the way, covering it up. So if we use a tool like the Reality Management Worksheet and we map out that negative belief system and that conscious logical struggle to be right, and then we cancel it, then we get access to our true nature, which is always there, from inception. Our true nature, the essence of the creative energy expressing in form, has always been there and will always be there. It's never been chipped, dented, rusted, faded, broken in any way. And when we're not directly aware of it, it's because we've got garbage blocking our view, not because our essence is in any way defective, but because we're focused on something that isn't our true nature. And so every one of these therapies that really work, spiritual teachings that really grab the essence of what works, every one of them is the same in this way. It has us just observing. Just observe. Just question and observe. Just ask to be shown. Get the conscious logical mind aside and train yourself to be more aware. What is the feedback signal system that's coming from your body? What is the essence when you're not running from it? Asking to be shown and being willing to sit with whatever comes up. Two key factors in just about everything I've ever seen that truly works. And oddly enough, sometimes it's the thing that people want to say is so unique about their work. And yet, I believe if you look at it, as I've looked at it, I continue to look at it and just to observe directly, almost every system I've ever encountered that truly works does the same thing. Observe and be with what's there. And the more I'm there truly with my essence and what's really there, the more is revealed, and the more I get to see and have direct, in vivo experience of my true nature. And that's all that's needed. So, I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are the energy of love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Ryce.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. Appreciate you. I'll have to go back and re-listen to capture all of the names of the interviews that are coming up, but I'll get those in the notes for today.
All right. Have a wonderful show.
Awesome.
Blessings.
Thank you. Thanks.